So the first myth that I run into a lot is the idea that to be a good scientist, you need to be an atheist. This point seems to be coming up with increasing frequency of late. So I think it's important for us to discuss it at the outset. One of the main champions, or the main group of champions of an argument like this, are folks like Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett, the so-called new atheists, or as I like to call them, the evangelical atheists. They really promote the idea that to be a scientist, you have to be an atheist. And now, like all the misperceptions we're going to talk about tonight, there is a kernel of truth in this statement. And that kernel of truth is this: in science, to do good science, you're required to be an objective observer. If I do an experiment and I collect the data and then I analyze it in a biased way, for example, by throwing out the data points that don't agree with the conclusion I want to draw, the result is not just bad science, it is not science. So for example, if I was to run a chemical reaction and find at the end of the reaction that I got 125% yield, well, one possible reaction I might have to that would be, yes! God suspended the laws of conservation of the mass in the middle of organic chemistry lab just for me. I deserve an A++ on this lab report. And that would not be science, because I would be discarding the more plausible explanation, namely that I had mismeasured the starting materials for the reaction at the beginning, in favor of a less plausible explanation. Doing science requires me to not do that. It requires me to report and analyze my data in an objective, unbiased way. And so from there, the argument goes that, well, not believing in God is clearly less biased than believing in God. Therefore, to be a scientist, you must become an atheist, QED. But there's a flaw in this argument, and the flaw is that atheism is every bit as biased a position as theism. Science can no more prove the non-existence of God than science can prove the existence of God. And so this is something of a solution, but it's also something of a non-solution because it means we are stuck. On the one hand, we have theism. On the other hand, we have atheism, and both positions are biased. But this really shouldn't shock us because scientists are biased in any number of ways. We're biased in spiritual, emotional, intellectual ways, and we bring all of this baggage into the lab with us. And the secret to being a good scientist, in my experience, isn't that you need to become some kind of unfeeling, skeptical robot who just runs experiments. The secret to being a good scientist is to be able to take your biases and set them aside for a time while you do experiments so that you can analyze your data in a rational and unbiased way. And so, in that context, being an atheist provides no particular advantage to doing good science. It's just another bias that you have to set aside when you're doing an experiment.
For more information about the Veritas Forum, including additional recordings and a calendar of upcoming events, please visit our website at veritas.org.